Christina, Universe Citizen Synergetic Thought Process presents Planet Utopia, Episode 60, 081723. Book Report 01. Starting anew on Planet Utopia. Me and you. A recently published book arrived in the mail, August 16th, 2023, which I ordered online 8 days prior by Christopher F. Rufo, and immediately delved into America's Cultural Revolution, how the radical left conquered everything. To my surprise, my writing uses similar words in Rufo's description of the radical left, like utopia for Planet Utopia, freedom as in degrees of freedom, pattern integrity, the slave mentality conditioning, unlike the embodied fervor of Soviet propagandized communism, written by Herbert Marcuse, eventually to radicalize Angela Davis, Paulo, Freire, and Derrick, the cohorts, whose revolution-critical theories are put into practice wherever opportunity permits. My inspired cogitations and communications continue to be inspired by our Buckminster Fuller, the planet's friendly genius's writing, mainly his Synergetics explorations in the geometry of thinking. Technically and literally, Synergetics' terminology has nothing whatsoever to do with totalitarianism, as Rufo's preface explains, will be disclosed in subsequent chapters, tracing the patterns of history, the intricacies of left-wing ideology, the personalities that are influencing the most problematic scenarios everywhere in the world, increasingly off-centered, unstable democracies. Derivations of the totalitarians' adapted language are of a great interest to me. Not those specific personalities, primarily because, and from every indication, the confused, ideological, aberrant, induced thought and language from the outset were destined to fail. It occurred more than 100 years ago, when it omitted universe, metaphysical intellect, and referential energetic, synergetic, self-regenerating cosmic systems, which are conceptual and tune-inable throughout humanity's information disseminating universal communications process. In other words, I'm not specifically interested in Herbert Marcuse, Angela Davis, Paulo, Freire, and Derrick, the personalities Rufo's ambitious book intends revealing. Their ideas, concepts, language, writes Chris Rufo, suffuses the political scenario and games that humans continue to engage in and to depend on as co-constituent participating players to some degree of direct or inadvertent contribution. Categorically, politics is one of the PRJWBCHM factors that the always partially overlapping generations of humans on planet Earth inherited millenniums ago. I wrote what I consider is an accurate PRJWBCHM acronym after many trial and error attempts to clarify this contextual parameter. It stands for politics, religion, justice, war, belief complexes, hierarchical matrix. By the way, matrix and womb are synonymous terms from Latin for mater, mother. So either as a womb of permitted ignorance or a matrix of the PRJWBCHM, the contextual parameter emanated from the womb of permitted ignorance that Bucky Fuller in his book Earth Inc. says was a gestation period of our species, humans on Earth, from millions of years ago. Ultimately, any political, religion, justice, war belief system that omits metaphysical intellect, universe's energy, synergy, regenerating pattern, integrity system, conceptualities of a non-contradictory generalized principle, whether it is communism and what Alexander Solzhenitsyn's writing reveals as the bankruptcy of quasi or pseudo-democracies that are being destroyed everywhere today, it is bound to fail from the initiated ground of being compromised epistemology, while not consciously aware of the inevitable self-defeat that is inherent in such uneconomical ways those systems behave. In every case, unconsciously, subconsciously, consciously, it is relative to unity and self in universe. But consciousness evolution's omnirational unity's inevitable objective is furthest from the ideological mentalities. Their malcontent intention is to infiltrate the established governing system, to disrupt, destroy, supplant the foundations upon which its institutions are built. This ambition is accomplished by replacing the basic, not yet comprehensively differentiated, relatively irrational elements comprising the predominantly asymmetrical, philosophically arranged systemic thoughts educing inventions. Simply put, our humanity, regardless what we assume to be going on, is being educated by the universal to local and local to universal communications process in every conceivable, perceptible direction. Consequently, it is essential that we understand what defines educing incentives and to recognize that the term educing is synonymous with the word educate, even as we might automatically reject the idea that education can give intellectual, moral, and social instruction to our otherwise directed, evolving personality, personally reject the notion of being deliberately trained or informed by a political institution on any subject. In particular, however, whatever the subject is, it refers to a system. Therefore, system awareness, the minimum structural system of nature's coordinates, symmetries, and asymmetries, ought to precede any particularly simple or particular anticipatory design science grand strategy. Furthermore, And from Bucky Fuller's experiential experimental search and discovery of nature's coordinate system, the minimum structural system of nature's omnirational, omnidirectional universe is the tetrahedron, which identifies the particulate. This means to say that whenever the term particular arises during any perspective consideration in the universal communications process, metaphysical intellect as a function of metaphysical physical universe automatically associates it with systemic thoughts, tetrahedron, in mind. Historically, people tend to follow any impressive writer's agenda. It can seem so inviting and potentially adaptable to longed-for solutions. The prevailing agonies, frustrations, exploitations that in essence are rearranging the slave mentality to suit the narrative, the covert or overt agenda that time and time again takes on a mind of its own undoing, regardless how sophisticated the supposed intellectuals of the new left and old left versus the old and new right. In omnidirectional universe, there is no right or left, as demonstrated by Bucky Fuller when he removes the rubber glove from the left hand to fit the right hand and vice versa, conceptually turning it inside out, annihilating the visible and then the invisible inside out, its non-simultaneity, as we can consider in Synergetics 419.02 and Synergetics 507.02. Obviously, the PRJW factors of any ideology are dangerously adaptive to education strategies that ought to have the most reliable, omniconsiderate, omnirational interest in every generation's evolving mentality, the aspiring child's insatiable curiosity, and adults' too often compromised curiosity. It ought not adhere to the developed intricate theories along lines of culture, race, and identity that are deviously becoming rerouted in the supposed knowledge-making institutions of the United States of America and other struggling democratic education systems in the world. Such invasive practices go beyond any rationalized tolerance in practice across reality spectrums that tends to increase the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of observation and articulation. This persists in unconcern to the slightest dismissible degree, which ought to be concerned with reducing the tolerance magnitudes of popularized revolutions. Unfortunately, for our succeeding generations, instead of reducing the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of the repetitively reenacting inaccuracies of observation and articulation, weaponization works its infiltrating, defending, offending intention into the language basis. It disguises exploitations in the value of doing harm by undermining humanity's relative educated ignorance that inadvertently carries over and into each succeeding generation the unresolved detriments and ongoing adaptations and profit motivations throughout illogically educed scenarios. Such calls to arms do not have to reveal any physically obvious weapon which can be brought into play at any time for emphasizing more stringent controls, but as words that can excite and incite restless revolutionary mentalities that eagerly come to the aid of the revolutionist's plight as an open invitation. The restless revolt join forces drastically or subtly, intend rearranging power in the governing system. Armed revolution appeals to the thrill-seeking ego that has yet to consciously pinpoint the nucleus of where and when whatever in its lifetime is so disturbing to its anticipatory mind, but seems always to be out of sync with its intuited latent potential to fulfill unrequited satisfaction. The potential recognition, alas, has made no conscious correlation with its anticipatory omnirational thought and language, the omnirational always and only coexisting complementarities that physics has found. When the restlessness and the destructive solution are interacting, potential fulfillment as the only known solution for whatever is recurring in the contemporary environment, promoted by the communications industries exploiting technologies to whatever extreme, it invites someone's anticipatory satisfaction. The tendency can become more or less aberrant, more or less compelling. This is especially when the value of human life by popularized media as entertainment incentives become disposable entities treating humans as collateral damage. This more obviously is attributable to the unwritten or written agreement with the aberrant schemes that are acceptable to governmentally supported and approved industries that wield influential power and increasing tolerance for the aberrants. But it is without conscious awareness of an omnirational conceptual integral system for systemic thought to cosmic, logically accommodate interacting, intertransacting, intertransformations, and inherent functions of as yet to be acknowledged metaphysical mind. By contrast, geometric models, topologically consistent pattern integrities, so that consciously concerned humans can coordinate thought and language, anticipating, cogitating reliably in respect to equilibrium. Such logical thought refers to the way nature's coordinate systems behave correlatively to the human mind's metaphysical intellect as a function of universe. Reference: Synergetics 419.02, Synergetics 507.02. Anticipate Book Report 02. Until next time, thank you.